I remember very well the speech that Douglas gave in August last year in Westminster announcing that he was going to join UKIP and no longer be a Conservative Member of Parliament. And a lot of press were in the room and they thought this was quite big news. And then he said, not only was he going to join UKIP, but as a matter of honour, on the basis that the voters are the boss, he was going to resign his seat and trigger an immediate by-election. And the look of collective shock and almost horror on the faces, not just of the journalists in the room, but the middle class in Westminster that day, was something to behold. So I think what Douglas did was a very noble and a very honourable thing that has helped to show that UKIP's a party that wants to bring a bit of trust back into politics. I'm delighted that he won the by-election as handsomely as he did, and my enduring memory of that day was being in a car, going down to Jaywick to sort of knock on doors of pledge supporters, and seeing a woman riding along the side of the road on a horse with a huge UKIP flag draped all over her. And she was doing her bit to support the by-election. And it was a truly momentous evening for UKIP, and it led, of course, to Mark Reckless doing exactly the same in Rochester and Stroud. I think it's killed the idea that a UKIP vote is a wasted vote, which we've heard for years, and it shows, actually, if you vote UKIP, you will get UKIP. There are a lot of seats out there in which UKIP is currently second and challenging the incumbents, and in a surprising number of seats actually in the north of England, where Labour holds the seat and UKIP is the only challenger. And somehow we've got to get the message out to Conservative voters in seats like that. They need to think in those seats particularly about voting tactically, because actually in seats like that, if they vote Conservative, they'll get Labour. If they vote UKIP, they will get UKIP. So that's a message I'll be pushing as I travel around the country. I wish Douglas very well on May the 7th, but also excited that 29 of you in this constituency have put your heads over the parapet. And it's making you produce an even bigger shocking factor in May than you did last September. We're a party, of course, that talks about the need for Britain to be self-governing. We're a party that talks about the need to sensibly control our borders and put in place an Australian-style point system. But there are a lot more things that UKIP is going to talk about. In that manifesto launch, Douglas has talked about electoral reform. And actually, we need big electoral reform. We've got a postal voting register, much of which, frankly, is open to question. We would like to see that scrapped. And let's go back to the idea that you apply for a postal vote by proving who you are and having a reason to need a postal vote. That strikes us as being a very good reform. And we also need to think a little bit about Britain's biggest party, which has not been discussed in this election at all. The biggest party are the nearly 40% of people who say they're not going to vote for anybody. Now, I believe that much of the UKIP vote nationally, a big percentage of our vote, will come from people who've been non-voters. But we also need to see an electoral system where everybody has an opportunity to go to the ballot box and cast a vote that they know will count towards the number of seats in Parliament. So we'll campaign for all of those things. And this morning's been interesting. We've just been to see the manufacturing engineering business here in the constituency. And what they're saying is they cannot get enough young men and women in this country who've been trained in engineering. So we need to talk about education as a party too. There's been too much emphasis on young people going to university, doing degrees that have no vocational link whatsoever, leaving our engineering firms with a genuine shortage of people they can employ. And one of the other things we'll talk about in that manifesto launch is the idea that actually people who want to get start vocational training could do so at school, alongside studying their core GCSE subjects. And anyone doing engineering at degree level, we would say, should pay no tuition. Let's encourage more young people to get into these areas. And we all think Britain's a manufacturing country that's gone down the tubes. It hasn't. We're still about the 8th biggest manufacturer in the world, and it's something with a better energy policy, with more trained young people in this country, we could be even better at than we are today. We've got 25 days to go, I think it is. I know that most of the electorate are frankly bored to death already with it, and they turn on their television every morning or their radio and they hear a new promise. Billions more money has been produced from this magic money tree that's going to fund all sorts of pledges and promises. And I don't think actually the public is believing any of it. It's going in one ear and out of the other. And our job over these next 25 days is to show we're serious, that we have a plan, but we also have an economic plan that is pragmatic and sensible. And I think we're the only people putting on the table how big sums of money can be saved. You know, the 10 billion a year net we give to the EU, unnecessary. We can cut 10 billion a year from the foreign aid budget. We can cut 4 billion a year from the vanity project that is HS2. And we can also recalculate the Barnett formula so that the English get it. Bear in mind, Liberal, Labour and Conservative are all committed to continuing with the Barnett formula as it is. I'm hoping Nicola Sturgeon has something to say about that on the debates on Thursday. Thank you.